So, I'll say now, I'll get into it now because we have to wait for the credits to roll to see the ending. I'll say now what my thoughts are on the original Crisis Core. It was fine. It did what it was supposed to do, establish Zack as a character better, and really, it was the story of Zack's life and the build up to his death, you know? And it did that well, and Reunion also does that well. Again, the ending, I'm not crying, but it's very well done. I like the way they integrate the DMW into the ending. I always like when gameplay and story are integrated like that. Oh wait, are they not doing the full credits? Are we not done? I'm standing by ready to unmute if... Well, I'll keep it muted for now. Okay, there they go. I'll say for the voice actors, since they're running the cast now, Angeal and Cisne are the standout among the newly cast VAs. They did great jobs, better than the originals in my opinion. The returning cast from Reunion, Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, all did fantastic once again. I'm still not completely sold on Sephiroth's new VA. In Reunion, in 7 Remake, I thought, well, they're not really giving him much to work with. Sephiroth is doing the thing he always does, spout cryptic babble that doesn't really mean anything, so, you know, there's not really much, you don't have much material to work with. So I was interested to see how he did in this game, and he did do better, but I didn't dislike him, but I still prefer George Newbern. Everyone else was mostly okay. Like Hollander, Lazard, Hojo's still great. Most of the new VAs were okay. The only one I really didn't feel, aside from Sephiroth, was Genesis. Again, it feels like they really leaned into the comparisons between him and Kuja. Like if you told me that J.D. Cullum voiced Genesis, I'd buy it, because at times he does sound like he's trying to evoke Kuja's performance, which is fair because they are very similar in some ways. But nah, it just didn't work for me. I think like the voice wasn't as good, and I don't think the performance was as good. It wasn't bad. Again, like, no, I don't think it was a bad performance. I just, again, prefer the original. Overall, with Reunion, it really is. If you haven't played Crisis Core, or even if you did play it and you didn't like it, give this a shot, because the quality of life improvements and the streamlining to the gameplay really make this a lot more fun. The shortcut menu for materia makes battles a lot more fast-paced. I did notice over time, especially in the later game, enemies are a lot more aggressive and attacking, and that makes the challenge level much higher. Like, I think it was Night Sky Prince again who like had a video of him playing Crisis Core and demonstrating that he was just standing there moving around as enemies struggled to attack him and missed, and then they just stood there for 5 seconds before trying to attack again. Did not really happen here. Like, you needed to dodge attacks and keep on your toes here. So challenge level was improved. The streamline to using materia made that more fun. The DMW is so much less intrusive because it doesn't take up the screen now unless it's a voiced cutscene. In which case, okay, you know, voiced cutscene, yeah, and you can store attacks instead of using them immediately and can choose a target with them. Still sucks that it's random when you get level ups, but you know, unless you excise the system entirely, there's only so much you can do with that. And again, the quality of life improvements, I like the emails now telling you when there's important items to get and which missions to get them in, so you're not going to miss out on things like the key item lets you use items in materia fusion, or that let you equip more accessories, or the summons. You're not going to miss out on them if you do ignore the missions, because those are important items that make a huge impact on your gameplay. So it's good that they added emails to nudge you into doing them, and it's cool that they added some emails to let you know some good materia fusion recipes, to like encourage you to explore the materia fusion system and give you powerful commands. Aside from a couple nitpicks with the voice acting, major criticism with Reunion, one is if you do know it's a PSP remaster, it's very obvious in spots. I mean, like the things like when you inspect the valve, like you saw this stream, when you inspect the valves to open the cells in the prison, the scene fades in and then it shows Zack turning the valve, and then it fades out and fades back in with the door open now. That kind of stuff, like on the PSP, it made sense because, you know, technical limitations. But that's not a thing here. You could have just shown Zack opening up the door. You know, you didn't need fade-ins and fade-outs or anything. But I imagine from a programming standpoint, if they did that in all the areas where Zack does, like, minor actions or things just like NPCs moving into place or NPCs, like, coming into the scene and that, if they had to, like, they could, like, do those scenes without the fade-outs and fade-ins and that, but from a technical and coding standpoint, would probably be a pain and probably not worth it. This is a remaster, not a proper full remake. And as a remaster, you know, it still looks great. You know, like I said before, in terms of graphics and the streamlines to the gameplay, this looks amazing for a remake. This is like saying we're remaking FF1 for the NES and it comes out looking like the PSP anniversary port. Like, what an upgrade. So yeah, but that's a nitpick I have. Like, sometimes you can tell, like, sometimes the animations are a little stiff. The mouth flaps don't always work well. There's minor technical snafus that you can tell, were like intrinsic to the PSP version and its technical limitations. So, you know, you run with it. It doesn't ruin anything. The major nitpick I have with Crisis Core Reunion is the major problem that the original Crisis Core had. Missions. I get why the original Crisis Core had them. It was on a portable console. You know, people on break at work or at recess at school, they're riding the bus or the subway between places. You know, you pull out your PSP, you play for 15-20 minutes. You know, you give them something to do where, yeah, just go to a save point. You know, do a mission or two. You know, play a little, play a lot when you want. So I get why missions were in the original Crisis Core, and why there were so many of them. This time there's no excuse. This was come out for PCs and consoles. There did not need to be 300 missions. And I did notice that a lot of things like some of the item shop addresses and some materia that add new portraits to the DMW, they were optional before. They were found in chests in the missions, but they made the mission rewards now so you can't miss them. So clearly they didn't have a problem with rebalancing missions somewhat. There did not need to be 300 missions in this version, and there should not have been. Because I have to do all of them now for 100% completion, and even with all the improvements to the gameplay and the quality of life improvements, missions still suck. They're still reusing assets, they're reusing a lot of palette swapped enemies, they're reusing the same environments over and over and over, and you just have to look around for the chests, which really probably don't have anything of much great value in them, but you have to find them for completion's sake. And it's not fun. Missions aren't fun. They're boring, tedious, busy work. You did not need 300 of them. Don't get rid of them entirely. Like, you keep some of them, but 300? No. I can easily slice that number in half. You know, I'll go further. Give us 100 missions. The items that are critical can still be gotten through missions, and we can still have some padding just for the sake of fun. But we did not need 300 missions. That should have been reduced. And the new Buster Sword mechanic didn't really add that much to the gameplay, but I didn't mind it either. So, and now we're done the ending, so let's watch the ending now. The actual ending. And this is where I mentioned before, you took note of Aerith's outfit in the church, which clearly based on the original FF7 outfit. She's got the belts on her sleeve, she's the visible stitching on her coat, the large metal bracelets. And they made an odd edit with Crisis Core's ending here, where they use footage from her in Remake. Where, oh, her jacket has buttons on it now, and she has smaller bracelets, and, like, her outfit is different when we just saw in the cutscene. And even if you didn't notice that her outfit was different, the video quality suddenly changes. Like, her facial structure suddenly changes. You know, like, because the Crisis Core FMVs, they were just upscaled for Reunion. And they look fine. Like, I'm not I'm not upset about them. You know, yeah, that's fine. But here, they're clearly using the intro from Remake, and it's much higher video quality than the Crisis Core FMV footage, which you notice right there. There's no getting around it. The video footage just took a sharp downturn in quality, because we went from FF7 Remake footage to upscaled PSP footage. I don't know why they made that change.
My name is Cloud. Soldier. First class.
And it's all, and like, the thing is that it just weighs, I think the only reason it could be maybe to fuel fan speculation. And then this says to be continued in Final Fantasy VII. Well, which Final Fantasy VII? Remake or the original game, you know? Because, like, I've seen it said before, I'm trying to think how she phrased it, it was Lindsay Ellis. She did like a video documentary, 3-part documentary on YouTube about the production problems behind The Hobbit, and mentioned that the major creative issue in terms of how the stories were told, The Hobbit, the book, was not a prequel to Lord of the Rings. In the books, The Lord of the Rings was a sequel to The Hobbit, but in the movies, The Hobbit was a prequel to Lord of the Rings. And that just approaching it ripples out, causes changes in the narrative structure, and also changes how people are going to approach it. And it's the same thing with Crisis Core. Crisis Core, well, it's the opposite in Crisis Core, pardon. The original Crisis Core was a prequel to FF7 that filled in some lore that had been well spoiled for fans. If this is meant to tie into Remake, it's providing fans with new lore that has not been revealed in Remake yet. Like, the big one that someone noted is, this basically spoils the whole reveal about Cloud's identity and Zack, you know? If you're playing Remake and you don't know the original story of FF7 and you play this now, everything you need to know has been spoiled from you. Like, there's so much information that FF7 didn't give you at the point Remake ended that Crisis Core gives you now. You know Cloud wasn't in Soldier, you know what happened at Nibelheim, you know what's going on with Sephiroth and Genova. So it's just weird. Like, I'm not opposed to them remake, but it is a thing, like, was this just a Crisis Core remake, or was this meant to tie into FF7 remake? Because if it was, then there's some oddities with that decision, you know? And there's not an easy answer to that. I'm not offering solutions, I'm not making critiques, I'm just saying it's weird, you know? I've never played many Metal Gear games, so I don't understand that comparison, but yeah, it's just like, if this is meant to tie into Remake, you're giving us a lot of major spoilers, you know? So, but on the other hand, if if they remastered this, they have to be including elements of this in a Crisis Core in Remake in some manner. Like, the major thing I'm thinking is, you know, people who don't know the FF7 OG, in FF Remake, they just got the Zack scene out of nowhere without context. Like, what's happening? Who is this guy? Who wielding the Buster Sword and fighting outside Midgar? What's going on? And he's talking about Cloud? Like, I don't understand this. Well, now you play Crisis Core and you get that story, But then so it's gonna affect. But now that's gonna affect how you go into Rebirth because you know so much more about the FF7 universe, including things that Remake hadn't told you yet. So, Crisis Core and its story elements have to be important to Rebirth somehow. How? Don't know. Obviously Zack's story, but there has to be more to it than that. Like, I've said only half joking. I actually would not mind this. Have Cisne stick around with the Turks, and in the original game, it was Rude was injured for. Sorry, not Rude. Reno was injured for a while, and Elena took his spot in the Turks, and then there was just all three of them. With Reno and Rude both being injured in the Sector 7 incident now, if they're both injured, why not have Cisne and Elena? I'd be fine with that. You know, have 4 Turks, and then include Sung, and we can have a boss battle with all 5 Turks. That'd be awesome. Now that I say it, I'm all for that. Yes. But otherwise, maybe some stuff with Cisne. I don't know. Probably not. The major reason they have included Crisis Core, they did make Crisis Core to make it accessible to new fans, probably is for Genesis. And again, I know I'm far from the first fan to say this, and I will not be the last. I don't care. I don't want to see Genesis's story continue. I don't want to see him come back. I don't want to see him make a heel face turn and help the heroes destroy Sephiroth once and for all. Genesis sucks. Genesis is not interesting. He's not compelling. He's not well written. Unless Rebirth makes a hard course correct on Genesis, you're not going to salvage this character, and you're not going to sell me on wanting to see more of him. I want to see more of Roche. I want to see more of Rufus. I'd love to see more of Andrea. Probably won't. You know, I want to see more of Cisne. I honestly, I would not mind seeing more of Angeal. Angeal as a character, again, I don't like him, but you could salvage Angeal. I'm saying Angeal. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Angeal. Angel. Let's just call him Angel. Get him voiced by David Boreanaz next game. No, and again, I don't like Angeal, but it's because his story and his character arc were not told well. But his character, fundamentally, is fine. Angeal, you can salvage Angeal with better writing. Better writing and better storytelling, you can get me invested in Angeal. I am not going to get invested in Genesis. I don't think you can salvage him. You know, I don't care about Genesis. No one cares about Genesis. He's a poor man's Sephiroth, and even the poor men don't want him. Anyway, clearing the game carries over most of my stuff. So I'll save in a new file. Okay, so I got all my ranting out of the way. Overall thoughts on Crisis Core Reunion. Excellent remaster, a lot more fun. The quality of life improvements really streamline the gameplay, make it much more fun to play. Graphics are great. Voice acting is passable at worst, fantastic at best. Again, Cisne and Angeal are stand-up performances. I don't like Angeal as a character, but his VA does a fantastic job and is better than the original. I will give that. You know, like, if Angeal's voice actor happens to end up watching this part, I don't know if he will, I doubt it, but you didn't have the best material to work with, but you did the best you could and you did a great job. Like, honestly, like, yeah, if Angeal comes back and we hear your voice again, I'm down for it. So overall, yeah, Reunion, a lot of fun. If you haven't picked it up yet, I don't think my opinion will change your mind because, you know, it's been out for 2 weeks now. At this point, if you wanted to play it, you've probably seen other people play it, have seen reviews and gameplay footage and made your choice. But in my opinion, if you haven't played Crisis Core Reunion and you're an FF7 fan, definitely play Reunion. If you didn't like the original Crisis Core, give Reunion a shot, and if you still don't like it, go for a refund. If you didn't like the original Crisis Core, give this a try. Maybe the improvements will help the experience for you. And if you did like the original Crisis Core, you'll love this because they just took it and polished it up to look and play better.